One message that gets communicated repeatedly in the self-help industry is that you can do anything that you put your mind to. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And I think Napoleon Hill was talking about human beings collectively. But when you take that statement and apply it individually, it's ridiculous. I'll never be 6 feet tall, no matter how badly I would ever want to. Woody Allen has succeeded in the film industry, but no matter how bad he would ever want to change careers, no matter how motivated he was, no matter how much he applied himself, worked on himself, or pulled himself up by his own bootstraps, he'll never play basketball as well as LeBron James. He'll never become as successful a bodybuilder as, let's say, Arnold Schwarzenegger was, and he might not be as effective as an entrepreneur as Sir Richard Branson, although in his own area, he's completely talented and competent. So no, I don't think you can do anything you put your mind to. However, we can all do something that maps with our unique talents and strengths and proclivities, our DNA, our calling, if you will. Now again, the difference between, our job, our career, and our calling is distinct. Our career is what we're paid for, but our calling is what we're made for. When I was younger, I would get severely beaten for any infraction. Walking too fast, eating too slow. My stepfather would read something in the paper that clearly at like 6 or 7 years old I had nothing to do with. I wasn't that powerful of a kid to affect current events, but he disagreed with it and it made him angry, so he needed to take it out on somebody. So my adopted mother and me, we were the only options because nobody else really had to take it from him. And a lot of times these beatings would result in me going to the hospital, or even worse, they wouldn't, because they didn't want to arouse suspicion. Sometimes these beatings would result in me being knocked unconscious, and I had no control over the frequency or intensity. So, the best I could do was try to stay out of his way. And, I couldn't fight back and I couldn't escape because I had nowhere to go long term, and he was way, way bigger than I was. I was a pretty small child. Not that big of an adult, but I was a very small child. And so the only strategy that kind of worked for me was escapism. So by about 11, 12 years old, I was drinking to excess, like outright binge drinking. I was smoking quite a bit, and I was using anything I could to get little situations where I can escape, even just for a moment. And luckily, my escapism evolved from drinking and smoking into exercising. And I really wanted to take my workout seriously, and exercising and drinking and smoking didn't kind of go together. Something had to suffer, and quite fortunately for me, it was my drinking and my smoking. But when I started exercising, quite accidentally, I stumbled upon some strong suits, things I did to compensate for the fact that I didn't feel safe and I didn't feel like I belonged. And the strong suits that started to emerge was my ability and my passion to teach people what I know. See, very often, what we're most competent at is what we have a deep-seated innate passion for. And as I started to share my information with other people, the effect it had on them made me feel good, but it was just the act of teaching in and of itself that really led to my fulfillment. And I started seeking out and sometimes being put in situations where, quite serendipitously, I had the opportunity to express that aspect of myself more. And I think the drinking and smoking came out of, obviously, deep-seated pain, but that just masked what I was going through. There was no healing involved in that. But the more I started to give myself, not just my teaching, because what I taught was part of me. So it wasn't that I was giving information, I was giving myself. And the more opportunity I had to give myself to others, the more it contributed to my own healing. So I think the idea in self-help, where you identify a weakness and you work on it so you're able to do anything, It's not only absurd, it's kind of cruel, because you spend your life working on things that you're just not suited for because somebody told you should do it, and you elevate yourself through intense effort to the point where you're average. Where every single one of us, if we can identify and employ our strengths continually, we can elevate ourselves to where we are uniquely extraordinary in that area. And nothing can give us as much fulfillment, excitement, inspiration as growing in an area where other people value our contribution as much as we enjoy developing the capacity to render it. And for me, it took a lot of trial and error, but what I've learned is that there are a couple of ways to identify what your unique areas of personal strengths are. Dr. Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, said success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue as an unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself. Now, he got those insights through intense suffering as a prisoner in Dachau and Auschwitz during World War II. And when he left those concentration camps, he survived. He created logotherapy. And in logotherapy, one of the aspects that Dr. Viktor Frankl created, one of his many contributions, was a quadrant of things that are ranked from difficulty to learn versus difficulty or ease in execution. So imagine a box with 4 squares, 4 quadrants, if you will. In one of the boxes, imagine things that are easy to learn and easy to do. This could be something really simple, like learning how to use a remote control. Not all that, okay, for some people that's really hard, but for other people it might be really simple and just really simple to use. And in another quadrant, think of things that are very hard to learn but easy to do. This could be like learning to ride a bicycle. I mean, if you're like me, I was like Tourette's kid learning how to ride a bike, so I would crash quite a bit. It was a Herculean effort just to get me to be able to not fall or crash into something or someone. But once you learn how to do it, it's extremely easy to do and kind of hard to forget. And think about in another quadrant, things that are hard to learn and hard to do. For me, this was advanced mathematics. Hence why my accounting career absolutely failed. And then in the other quadrant, think about things that, it's easy to learn, but it's very, very hard to do. Like manual labor. When I was 11 years old, I got a job, working in a wheatgrass factory underground in this basement. And one of my roles was I had to collect all the trays of manure and dispose of them in dumpsters. Very, very easy to learn how to do that, but extremely exhausting work. Not to mention, it was a real shit job. So very often your talents lie in things that are easy for you to learn and easy for you to do, but other people find it hard to learn and very hard to do. That might be reflective of your unique areas of talent. Another question to ask yourself is, what is it that you loved to do when you were a child? You found excuses to do it. Now, if you're thinking cry and soil myself, think a little bit older. Think about like 5, 6, 7 years old. In your unstructured, unbound periods of play, what scenarios did you create for yourself? Where did you allow your imagination to go? And what did you dream about doing when you one day would grow up and become an adult? And the last question is, what is it in an aspect of work that you enjoy so much you don't engage in it because of the outcome it produces? You engage in it simply to get a chance to do what it is you love doing. You do it for its own sake. The payoff is in the process. And I think this is one of the most important things that we can ever ask ourselves. This is the most important aspect of introspection, because the value we create for other people and our own lives is in direct correspondence to our strengths, how we discover them, how we cultivate them, and how we employ them. to quote from one of the great legends in self-help, Zig Ziglar, I believe strongly that the key to our growth and our happiness and our quote-unquote success, which is the lifelong pursuit of a worthwhile goal, is the understanding that we can't do anything or we can't have everything, but we can do one thing. And whatever that thing is, you can have what it is you truly want, as long as we go out and we help enough other people have what they truly want.